Welcome, everybody, to the Indiana Basketball Weekly Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. I'm your host for the Indiana Basketball Weekly Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my co-host, Kent Sterling. How you doing today, Kent? Or do I even need to ask?
Yeah, I mean, what a fantastic day. Last night or yesterday, it was my birthday. We went to the casino. We were going to do a little gambling on sports. Went to the slots. I made $69. We walked out of the casino. And then today, you win by 8 against the ninth-ranked Nittany Lions. I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, and the thing about me here is everybody bitched about Archie, including us from time to time.
Yeah.
And I think what we've seen is some nice adjustments to his defensive philosophy because the hard hedge out top has gone away mostly. Against Minnesota, it was kind of a soft hedge with some space. Today, it was mostly switching to ball screens. And there's nothing wrong with having a philosophy on defense, but I think it's very welcome to see that tweak to match the opponent and fit the personnel that the Hoosiers have.
You know, and a lot of people are still going to bitch and moan about Archie, saying he should have done it earlier. We're sane people, and so we're just happy that he did it eventually, and it looks like it'll be in time for Indiana maybe to get a little bit racy as we get toward the NCAA tournament.
As in Race Thompson.
And exactly.
Once again, was huge today.
You know, the statistics obviously don't bear out how important that kid was. His contributions from an energy perspective were enormous.
Well, and the thing about him is this, he only scored 8 points, but it only took 6 shots to do it. So what he does is efficient. He doesn't force anything. And, I mean, Joey Brunk was god-awful again today, especially at the start of the second half. And I still think Race needs to start.
You know what? Race Thompson has been terrific. But again, I mean, we talked about this last show. You know what? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
It's obviously broke,
This seems to be working.
It's broke.
Yeah, but they've won 3 out of 4 doing this. I'm in. I'm good. Joey play 2 minutes. Race comes in. Duran comes in. I'm happy. They're winning.
I'm not good. Because if you do this in the NCAA tournament and you play Joey Brunk in the first 5 minutes of each half, it could cost you the game in the season.
I'll tell you what else can cost you the game is Devontae Green deciding that after he makes his first 3 shots, he isn't going to miss one the rest of the day, and he misses his next 5.
Yeah, but you know what? I don't have as big a problem with 5 straight misses after you've hit 3 in a row. My problem with Devontae was always missing his first 3 and then missing another 10 on top of
it. The good shooters have got to realize that 3 out of 3 does not become 6 out of 6 very often. You're going to recede to the mean always, always, always. If you hit your first, it's like going to the casino. My endless casino metaphor. If you go to the casino and you win your first 6 passes shooting craps, pick up your chips and get the hell out of there because eventually you're going to come back to even or worse.
All right. At Old Hoosier, OLDE, just made a comment. He said it is obviously that Kent has a gambling problem.
Hey, my problem won me 69. Here's the thing with gambling. The guys who have problems walk out with empty pockets. Right? They gamble until they lose everything. I gamble until I'm ahead, and then I run like a thief.
Well, see, my thing is me and my wife went to the casino like 12 years ago. It was the last time we went. Hit $200 on a slot machine, and then we left. And we've never been back.
We don't argue with winning. No. If you're up, leave. It's that easy. Vegas, I can't wait to leave the casino. I don't want to sit in there and play for 12 hours. I want to win a little bit of money, enough to cover dinner and drinks, and you get the hell out.
All right. My son just showed me a very funny picture of a T-shirt, so I almost laughed on air. But Indiana came out, and they played as good as Indiana can play in that first half. They get up by 19 points. Devontae Green found his range behind the three-point line late in that half to bust that lead up a little bit. And the second half is completely different. But the thing about it is, it's completely different because Penn State is ranked as the 9th best team in the country, and they came out and played like it. You know they're not going to play like crap for 40 solid minutes. And when they did it, they got a 5-point lead. And then Jerome Hunter, I think, made the play of the day when he hit that 3 to get it down to 2 because we were at a point there where it looked like all of a sudden Indiana was the team that was about to be blown out. And I thought Jerome Hunter had to play it a day.
I thought that he was terrific, and he played with energy. I like the way these guys, all of a sudden, of course we like it because, they're winning. But I like the way he's being deployed. I like the energy he brings off the bench. I liked a whole lot of things today. I thought that Deron Davis looked like he was going to have a good day until all of a sudden the officials started to get very, very they turned into activists and decided to blow the whistle 46 times, which is just, to me, atrocious. I don't know how, and I know these guys don't just call Big Ten games, but Big Ten is about contact. And when you start calling the ticky-tack stuff in the middle of a season or toward the end of a season where guys have been, like you can mug somebody and not get a whistle, all of a sudden it's ticky-tack, the thing gets out of hand.
Yeah, and the other thing, Indiana 12 turnovers, which against a team like Penn State, I don't think is that bad. The only knock on them is the knock that we always have, which is the free throw shooting, which is another thing that could come to bite them in the ass. But Trace Jackson Davis, again, another double-double, his 9th of the season, 13 points, 10 rebounds. And it seems like this offense kind of runs through Trace Jackson Davis now.
And I don't think he can play worse than he played today.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing. I mean, around the bucket, he was really, really weird the way he was missing shots. If he plays well, I think Indiana wins this game by 15, 20 points. He didn't play terribly well, but he kept his head in the game. He stayed involved on the defensive end, didn't let the misses on the offensive end kind of determine the course of action on defense, which is kind of rare for a freshman. I really like the way this team's coming together. I like the way, they're not going to blow out the 9th-ranked team in the country by 38 points. So you knew at some point the game was going to change a little bit. It did. But Indiana, in part because, like you said, because of Jerome Hunter knocking down that three, all of a sudden they weathered the storm, and then they rebuilt their lead a little bit in a way that I don't think they'd have done that a month ago.
Yeah, because this is a Penn State run. Penn State went on a 30-5 run. It put them ahead 48-42. And then Indiana responds with the game's next 13 points, puts them up by 7. Penn State never gets closer than 3. And I think we've seen them play well this year, but I think what we've seen over the last 4 games tells us that this team's starting to get it.
Yeah, I totally agree. I look at the last 4 games, and instead of thinking, okay, boy, are we going to be fortunate to split these things and go to the NCAA tournament with a 10-10 Big Ten record and 20 wins overall, I'm thinking, okay, you know what? I think that they can beat Purdue up at Mackey. I don't know if they can beat Illinois and Champaign, but then I think they can win the last 2 games, which means, of course, they're not going to do any of that stuff. But that we're that optimistic right now, I think is a really, really good sign.
Yeah, I think there's no doubt they're going to the Final Four. I've been saying it since the start of the year, and you've mocked me, but now I think it's obvious. But another guy who played really well today that I haven't heard anybody mention was Al Durham, 5 for 8 from the field, 14 points.
He was, but he's got to stop turning the ball over because those turnovers. I mean, they had a real chance to kind of put the ball away on a 2-on-1 fast break, and Durham just threw it out of bounds behind Race Thompson. I don't know how you go about doing that. Stop that stuff. What's the matter with you people? That it was just maddening, and but a lot more good than bad, that's for sure. I think that Al, if he can take better care of the basketball, he's a guy. You look at the team for next year. We still got a long ways to go this year, I hope. But you look at the team for next year and you think, damn, they could be really, really good.
Do you hear voices?
Yes.
What was that?
I don't know. It sounded like some kind of play-by-play.
I know. Huh. All right.
Yeah.
It probably something to do with my computer. But
it's not on my end, brother.
Another guy that I think really gets overlooked in this game because they only had 7 points was Rob Fennessy, because I think he is really controlling the tempo of this offense right now.
Yeah, he didn't make a shot, but he was 7 of 8 from the foul line. Thank God. He had 5 big rebounds. The guards rebound very well for Indiana. He had 5 steals and just that 1 turnover. That's when he's really good. I don't care if he misses every shot. If he takes really good care of the ball and he's active defensively, Indiana is a really good basketball team. When he doesn't take really good care of the ball and get Indiana into their offensive set with some level of efficiency and gets it started quickly, they really aren't very good. I think they're kind of, they kind of go as Rob goes a little bit, and Rob went today.
Yeah, and the big thing that I take away from this is you had Justin Smith 31 minutes, Trace Jackson 31 minutes, Fennessy 27, Durham 25. But on the bench, you had Hunter with 20 minutes, Thompson 21, Green 23. So this is a team now with an 8-man rotation. If in that 8-man rotation you put in Deron Davis and take out Joey Brunk, that I think is pretty solid.
It's one of those things where you look at the KenPom statistics. I always go down to bench minutes. And Indiana's bench minutes is 37.1%. That's ranked 43rd. And if Archie is as judicious during practice and with work and kind of tapering these guys as we've gotten into late February, as he is during the games and really has been throughout the season during games, kind of limiting minutes for guys, not playing anybody 40 minutes ever, and rarely playing anybody 35. I think Indiana, and I think that's one of the reasons Indiana's kind of turned a corner, is that they're not exhausted. Their tank is not empty. They got a lot of fuel left, and I think that bodes well for these last 4 games and hopefully into the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, and the next game up is Purdue. And let's face it, the last time Indiana played Purdue, Indiana got humiliated. And they will play at Mackey Arena. This is a Purdue team that is destined for the NIT. We've had this argument before, but they're going to the NIT. And they're 14-14, 7-10 in conference. This is a game Indiana should win.
You know what? If Indiana beats them, I don't think they go to the NIT. I don't think they go to any tournament at all. I mean, right now, Purdue's 14-14. So they're going to get hot during the Big Ten tournament, or they've got to win 2 of their last 3, and I don't believe they're going to beat Iowa at Iowa. So this game on Thursday night up at Mackey, I think is for their postseason life. I don't think that Purdue makes it if Indiana beats them, and I do think that Indiana's got a shot to beat them. I wonder how in the world they're going to score. And this is no time for Indiana fans to get cocky about stuff. I mean, you win 3 of 4, and like you say, we're going to the Final Four. But this is, if they play to their potential, they got a hell of a chance up there.
Yeah, and I think this. I think Purdue's done whether they beat Indiana or not. Even if they win the last 3, they're 17-14, and they'd have to win, I think, at least one game in the Big Ten tournament to get in.
Oh, yeah, but they would get into the NIT at that point.
Well, you can get in the NIT with a losing record now. So they're getting in the NIT probably either way
I don't like
because
that.
of Mackey.
You shouldn't be able to go to a tournament with a losing record. I think that's absurd to reward a team for playing poorly if you consider the NIT a reward. I hate that. I don't want, and I know conferences are all different, but a team with a conference record under 500 go to the NCAA tournament. I loathe that, and I hate that teams with a losing record could go to the NIT. I hate that too.
Yep, but I just hate the NIT in general. But also remember this, the NIT is now owned by the NCAA, and Purdue puts butts in seats, whether they're the home team or not. If you send Purdue to Stephen F. Austin, it's going to be a huge crowd. And,
it's all about cash.
Yeah. So, and Purdue, when you look at them, they got blown out at home by Penn State. They got blown out at Ohio State. They lost a close game at Wisconsin. And that Michigan game, it's 71-63, but Michigan blew them out. They controlled that game the whole time.
I'll tell you what, I do not want to play Michigan ever, ever, ever. Michigan is really good.
Yeah, I think especially if Livers is there, that's the one team I don't want to see in the NCAA tournament. I mean, because they're a team that could be a 10 seed and be scary as hell.
Yeah, and in Indianapolis in the Big Ten tournament, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see them run the table and win that thing. They are really, really good. I mean, they check all the boxes. At least they have the last 4 or 5 games. They've been outstanding.
All right, so Big Ten, how many teams do you think are going to make the NCAA tournament?
People keep saying 10, and I think that 10's reasonable unless Like if Indiana loses their last 4, that's a disaster. But I think that everybody down through Indiana and Ohio State goes, and I think Purdue, Minnesota, Nebraska, and Northwestern, they don't.
I agree. We agree, Kent.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? We've come together.
Yes. Right now. That's a
but
song,
Michigan,
isn't it?
I mean,
all right.
Michigan's in, Rutgers is in, certainly. If Ohio State, I mean, at 7-8, they're not, man, what has happened to them? In November, they were really good. Into December, they were great. And then all of a sudden, just like, wah, wah, they are not good at all.
Well, I think with Ohio State, the scary thing is this, though. I think they could still miss because if you look at the rest of their schedule, they play Maryland today, which is going to be a tough game. They go to Nebraska, which should be a win. But then they host Michigan, they host Illinois, and they go to Michigan State.
Yeah, you could lose all 3 of those really easily.
Yeah, so they could finish 1-4. If they finish 1-4, I think there's some issues there because that's an 18-13 team that would all of a sudden be 8-12 in the Big Ten.
Isn't that interesting? Then Indiana fans aren't going to be able to point to Columbus and say we should have hired that guy. You know what I mean? Like Archie gets a little bit hot, and so the seat cools, and then the seat heats up for Chris, which they won't do that. Ohio State fans aren't that nutty. Chris Holtman's a hell of a good coach. But Indiana fans, boy, the wind changes direction over the course of a week or two, and all of a sudden things, conversations that were being had seriously are no longer being had and are now being scoffed at by everybody.
All right. So do you think Maryland wins the Big Ten? They've got a 2-game lead right now with 4 to go.
Yeah, and they're the best team in it. So, in that, speaking of Maryland, if Indiana just could have held on against Maryland, which they should have, where were they up 6 with 40 seconds left? You close that game, and all of a sudden now you're talking about a team that could wind up, going 12-8 in the Big Ten, finishing 3rd, 4th, and everything's looking up. That one expanse of 40 seconds really cost the Hoosiers.
Yeah, because that one win there would have put Indiana 1 game behind the other 4 teams that are all 10-6 right now. Yep. Shame. But hopefully they learned and they figured stuff out. I think that if that game was played today, it'd be completely different. Indiana looks like a team that's now closing games instead of a team that's going to puke it up at the end of games. Well, they start them off well, they finish them well, and they puke them up in the middle. But you can save it. You can save it when you start off well and you end well, Kent.
That is the truth. Today, certainly Exhibit A for that. What was it? That 30-5 run. That was hideous. That was just awful.
That was painful, and that to me looked like it was going to end up in us getting beat by 30, but it ended up being all right.
And I think it was entirely caused by the officials. I don't know what kind of sway Pat Chambers has with officials, but he lobbied to get that call changed. That 3rd foul on Stevens changed to somebody else. And
it changed to the guy behind him, and it was obvious that the foul was the guy in front of him because the official blew the whistle and pointed at him, and then the guy from behind hit.
Exactly. And so that's Stevens' 3rd foul. He can't play another minute in the first half. They've got to reduce his minute load in the second half. That changed the game, and really I thought in a pretty substantial way helped. It either caused or helped that 30-5 run. I don't think it happens without that.
Well, I think this. I think if Myron Jones doesn't miss the last 5 games, I think Penn State would be right there for a shot to win the Big Ten right now because I think with Myron Jones healthy, they're as good as Maryland.
They're really good. And Chambers, Dan Dockich he's got to stop having Big Ten coaches on his show because every time he has these guys on the show, like he talked to Chambers this week, it was great. And I really liked the guy. I don't liking the coaches that we coach against, that Indiana plays against. I don't liking Brad Underwood. I don't like that at all. I don't liking Greg Gard. I even like Fran McCaffrey. Well, I don't want to like Fran McCaffrey.
Why not?
Well, he's the opposition. It's like growing up in the 70s and liking Leonid Brezhnev, for God's sake. I want to hate these guys. I loved hating Gene Katie. I loved mocking Dr. Tom Bounce Pass when he was at
but
Iowa.
they were all easy to hate, especially Gene Katie.
None of these guys are. Fred Hoiberg's one of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet in your life. Now we got to deal with him.
Yeah, but you don't have to hate him because he coaches at Nebraska.
Well, that's true, at least this year. But you know what? He's going to get that thing righted, and then we're going to have another quality opponent to deal with.
I don't know, though. I think this. I think majority of time, Nebraska's a football school. Penn State's a football school. You'll get the anomaly where for a year or two they'll be really good, but it usually doesn't last. It's hard to sustain at those schools.
It really is. And Nebraska is a very underrated, at least in my mind, underrated academic school. And they do have academic standards that basketball team has to adhere to that are unusual in the Big Ten. But Fred Hoiberg can coach. He is a really good college basketball coach. And if the Bulls had given him any kind of a roster and given him kind of the slack that he needed to build that thing a little bit, the Bulls would be a much better team for it.
Oh, gosh. Here we go with that Chicago crap again.
Well, no, I'm thrilled that the Bulls suck. That's great. I hope they never win another game.
Oh, yeah, I forgot you moved.
Hoiberg
now you're a Pacers fan.
Exactly.
Okay. I got it confused. But you're still a Cubs fan.
Yeah, that won't scrub off.
Well, should have. Because, now you should probably be a Cincinnati Reds fan since you're in Indianapolis.
Yeah, that isn't going to happen ever.
No, you don't like all those world championships, do you? You like that one every century.
Well, I enjoy looking at the Reds' tarnished trophies, gathering some rust, gathering some mildew.
What trophies were tarnished?
Huh?
What trophies were tarnished?
Well, the tarnish over time.
Oh.
Not because like the Astros is
yeah, but
clearly
you know what? After
tarnished.
you get the Cubs win from a couple years ago, where they played Cleveland, so it doesn't really count. But if you go back before that, I think those trophies probably have turned into dust by now. Did they even have World Series trophies in 1908?
Yeah, in 1907. Don't forget about the 07 championship, an unheralded championship because it immediately preceded the 1908 one. So, but what a team that was! You throw out the record books when you're facing Frank Chance and Johnny Evers, Joe Tinker, Frank Wildfire Schulte, Mordecai Three Finger Brown. For God's sake, those Cub teams were stacked. I tell you, Mike.
Sure they were, Kent. They were stacked. Jeez, it's the Cubs.
Yeah, you're right.
What was the
now
record
I can't
that
watch
year? Because that team, didn't that team win like 107 games in 1907?
I think you're right. They won 116 in 1906. I know that they were 116 and 36. And then they played the hitless wonder Chicago White Sox in 1906, and the White Sox beat them.
Good. I always cheered for the White Sox over the Cubs.
That's ridiculous.
Well, it's ridiculous that you made fun of the Reds. And I love the White Sox just because I can't stand the Cubs.
No franchise in the history of Major League Baseball has done less while being in a big market than the Chicago White Sox. They're an embarrassment.
Wait a second.
To a city that's got
Could we
plenty to
not
be
say the
embarrassed about.
exact same damn thing about the Cubs?
Wait, the Cubs, at least they were lovable losers. They owned the city of Chicago without winning a world championship for 108 years, for God's sake.
That's really not something to brag about.
Jerry Reinsdorf was too damn stupid to continue to employ Harry Carey. He didn't understand how important Harry was to the gate at White Sox games. That's a whole nother story.
Yeah, but you know what? The White Sox didn't win a World Series until Harry Carey was no longer there.
In fact, he was dead.
Yeah.
So.
Because what was that, 2005 when they beat the Astros?
Yeah. Yep. And that went back, I think the previous was 1917. So it was quite a drought. Not Cubsian in terms of the length of the drought, but nearly.
Yeah, because really you had from 1917, of course you had 1919 where they lost the World Series, but 1959 I think was their only other World Series where they lost to the Dodgers 4-2.
Yep. And the ageless wonder, Early Wynn. an unimportant part of that team. I
There's
don't
nothing
know.
important about Chicago baseball. One of them wins something every 100 years, and then we got to hear
That's
about it
right.
for the next 99.
Well, the Reds, they are. You can keep praying that Joey Votto kind of figures it out,
Don't need him
and
to.
that
This team's loaded, and they're going to win their division, which is the division the Cubs are in.
I think they've got a legitimate chance to finish last.
Who? The Cubs?
In the Central? No, the Reds. I think
Sure.
I think it's they and the Pirates, and the Reds have an advantage over the Pirates. But the Cardinals are going to be good. Brewers are going to be good again.
But the Cubs aren't. And the
Cubs
Brewers aren't. The Brewers lost Moustakas, too. And the Brewers didn't add anybody.
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
And the Cardinals didn't add anybody. The Cubs didn't add anybody, but the Reds did, Ken.
Yeah, you keep writing checks that they got to go out and cash 162 times.
I didn't write any checks. You're the one sitting here talking about your team's illustrious history, where during your very long life, you've only seen your team win the World Series once. I've seen my team do it 3 times.
You did say they're going to win the division.
Yeah.
So you're kind of writing a check that they got to cash. I
suppose.
Because
Vegas favors them as being the best team in the division also.
Well, we'll see how this goes. That's I can't have really. Are they the odds-on favorite to win the Central? Honest to God.
Yeah.
How do I bet against that? I guess I'd bet against that by betting on all the others.
Yeah, but then you would have to bet on the Cardinals, and if you're a true Cubs fan, you're not going to do that. You can't bet on the Cubs because, let's face it, they're the Cubs.
Yeah, you don't make a lot of money historically betting on the Cubs, but you haven't made any money at all over the last 30 years betting on the Reds, or nearly 30 years.
Oh, no, you said 30 years, and that would be incorrect because in 1990 the Reds won the World Series.
And then you heard me correct myself. I barely
but it was too late.
You can't. Before I addressed it.
You cannot make a glaring mistake like that and then correct it immediately because that just makes you look bad, Kent.
It does. It makes me look disingenuous somehow.
Well, we'll have to keep doing the IU basketball show weekly, even during the summer, for some reason, just so we can talk about the Reds and the Cubs. Or maybe we'll just turn the Indiana Hoosier weekly show into the National League Central Update or National League Central Report. There you go.
It's not a bad thing to veer a little bit periodically and talk about something else. We got nothing to complain about.
No.
For God's sake, we can't, heap praise on the Hoosiers for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah. Can't prey on the Hoosiers anymore. The Hoosiers prey on you. And they'll prey on the Purdue Boilermakers. What is that, Thursday night?
Yeah, Thursday night. And then they've got Sunday at Illinois.
Okay, so Friday we're going to talk about the beatdown of Purdue and what we're going to do to Illinois on Sunday.
I cannot wait. And I do think that that's going to happen. Race Thompson. Who thought that kid was going to figure it out and all of a sudden become the kind of guy who is going to turn what could have been a very, very disappointing season into something that's completely different? I'm stunned that he's become that guy, but I'm thrilled he's become that guy.
All right, Kent, you want to tell everybody where they can find your book, Oops, and where they can follow you on the internet?
Absolutely. You go to Amazon.com and you search Oops and Kent, and it's Oops, the Art of Learning from Mistakes and Adventures. I've had mistakes, I've had adventures, and I've learned from all of them, and now you can too. And then follow me on Twitter at Kent Sterling, or you can read what I write and what I post on video at KentSterling.com as well.
All right, guys, and you can follow me at Grueling Truth. I actually wrote a book too, Kent.
Did you?
Yes, I did. It's called The Rage Within. It follows
Nice.
the season of an arena football team. We made the New York Times bestseller list too.
Really?
No. But, I mean, how the hell are you going to look that up to see if I'm lying or not? I did get a check, and I actually made some money, which was shocking to me. But
nice.
All right, guys. We will see you. When did we say? Friday? Yeah, yep. Friday, to talk a little Indiana basketball. And remember, if you have any questions, comments, you can send them to at Grilling Truth or at Kent Sterling, or you can direct messages on either one. But for now, for Kent Sterling, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.